You know, OpenAI. It's the company that basically put AI in everyone's hands. It's the fastest growing product in history, a force that seems, well, unstoppable. But what if, just what if, underneath all that incredible hype, there's a fatal flaw? What if we've all seen this exact movie before and we already know it has a terrible ending? Let's dig in and find out. So, when OpenAI dropped ChatGPT back in late 2022, it hit 1 million users. Now, that's a huge milestone for any company, right? But the truly staggering part was the speed. It took them just 5 days. I mean, let that sink in for a second. To put that in perspective, it took Netflix 3.5 years to get there. Facebook, 10 months. Even Instagram took 2.5 months. What OpenAI pulled off, it was absolutely historic. And the momentum, it just kept building. Fast forward to today, and the numbers are just jaw-dropping. We're talking 900 million people using it every single week. It's the fourth most visited website on the planet, right up there with Google, YouTube, and Facebook. Its valuation, it shot up 25 times over in just 3 years. And get this, a staggering 92% of Fortune 500 companies are using their stuff. They didn't just join the market, they literally created it. They even dictated the price, with some plans hitting $200 a month. Way more than your Netflix subscription, and people were actually paying it. All their competitors, Gemini, Claude, they pretty much just copied the same model. So everything looks perfect, doesn't it? The fastest growth ever, sky-high valuation, total industry leader, an unstoppable force. But what if this all sounds a little familiar? Because this exact same story played out not that long ago. And that brings us to WeWork. Yeah, that WeWork, a company that promised to completely revolutionize the future of work, with a story of hypergrowth that feels, well, eerily similar. Just look at the sheer velocity here. In 2017, WeWork had 275 locations. By 2019, that number had tripled to 850. Their revenue was doubling year over year, hitting $1.8 billion in 2018. At one point, they were the single largest office tenant in all of London, bigger than any of the global banks in the city. And this is where it gets a little spooky. WeWork was hyped as the future of work, used by 40% of the Fortune 500 and hit a massive $47 billion valuation. OpenAI, it's hyped as delivering AGI for all, used by 92% of the Fortune 500 with a valuation that soared past $80 billion. You see it, right? The narratives are practically identical. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. WeWork's incredible rise led to an absolutely epic collapse. And it was all because of one fundamental problem that was hiding in plain sight the entire time. Their business model was just fatally flawed. It all boiled down to this really simple, brutal math. For every single dollar that WeWork earned in revenue, it was spending nearly $2 on expenses. Think about that. They were literally losing $1 for every dollar they brought in. And this created a terrifying paradox. Every new office they opened meant more rent, more staff, more fancy furniture, and just more and more losses. Growth wasn't their savior. It was actually speeding up their doom. The bigger they got, the faster they were bleeding cash. It's insane. They reached this peak valuation of $47 billion. Investors were just pouring money in, completely captivated by the visionary founder and that incredible growth story. And then poof, it all crashed to zero. The second they filed for their IPO, the public got to see the real numbers for the first time, and the whole thing just imploded. They eventually filed for bankruptcy. Now, here's the most important thing to remember. WeWork wasn't killed by a competitor. It was killed by its own broken business model. So how does this whole cautionary tale lead us back to OpenAI? Well, if we peel back the layers of hype and look at their actual finances, you have to ask, is history repeating itself? Leaked financials show a pattern that is deeply troubling. Just look at this. As their revenue grows, their losses are growing even faster. In 2023, they lost $1.5 billion. For 2024, that loss is projected to jump to $5 billion. And by 2025, a staggering $9 billion in losses. Just like WeWork, the more they grow, the more money they lose. And hey, don't just take my word for it. A veteran venture capital executive, someone who's seen thousands of tech companies rise and fall, they put it really bluntly. They said, this is the WeWork story, but on steroids. So why is this happening? I mean, how can a company with so many users and these high-paying clients
be in this kind of position? Well, it turns out the entire business model for AI might be fundamentally broken. And there are three key reasons for this massive cash burn.
First up, the cost of computing. See, unlike regular software, AI doesn't run on normal servers. It needs these incredibly expensive GPUs. And this is the real kicker right here. Every single time you ask ChatGPT a question, it costs OpenAI real money. A Google search actually makes Google money on every query. A ChatGPT query, it's a direct loss every time. Second, just look at who's using it. A whopping 95% of their 900 million users are on the free plan. That's 855 million people generating direct costs for the company with zero revenue coming in. And here's the truly wild part. Even the paid plans lose money because pro users just use it so much that the costs are higher than the subscription fee. Sam Altman himself admitted they lose money even on those $200 pro plans. And finally, the third problem is maybe the most bizarre of all. The entire AI industry seems to be running on this kind of phantom circular economy. It works like this. Big tech companies like Microsoft invest in AI startups like OpenAI. Then those startups turn right around and use that investment money to buy chips and cloud services from, yep, you guessed it, the same big tech companies. So the same money is just going round and round in a circle. And it gets even worse. A lot of those headline-grabbing, multi-billion-dollar AI investments you read about, they aren't what they seem. A huge chunk of that investment isn't actual cash changing hands. It's just credits and promises on paper. So, with these broken economics and basically phantom money propping things up, OpenAI is facing its final, most critical challenge, a race against the absolute giants of the tech world. And this slide really lays out the impossible fight that's ahead of them. OpenAI has to build brand new products, like a web browser, a video app, from total scratch, and then somehow convince billions of people to switch from the apps they already use and love. Meanwhile, companies like Google and Meta, they can just plug the exact same AI tech directly into Chrome, Instagram, and YouTube, products that already have billions of users. That distribution advantage is almost insurmountable. And this brings us to the brutal reality of the choice they have to make. If they don't build new products, the big tech companies will just copy their models and make them irrelevant. That's a slow death. But if they do try to build new products, they have to burn through an insane amount of cash hoping to beat the giants. That's a fast death. So you see, this isn't a do or die situation. It's a die or die situation. So with broken economics and this impossible competitive landscape, is OpenAI just doomed to become the next WeWork? Is there any way out of this? Well, believe it or not, there is one solution that's been proposed, and it sounds like pure science fiction. Building data centers in space. And we'll get into that wild idea next time.